Hi everybody, this is JoHanna and welcome to Keeper Corner. We want to share with you a fan favorite this week. That's right, it's Penguin Week here on Keeper Corner. This whole week is devoted to our Humboldt Penguins. Today we are letting our penguins out onto exhibit. They've been inside for just a little longer this year than normal because we've been doing some renovations to their pool. So they have an all new pool and we're very excited to let them out and watch them play and have some fun. So without further ado, here we go. Our penguins are outside enjoying the new pool. You can see them kind of waddling around in the back. Some of them are even picking up some leaves and carrying them around. We're seeing a lot of fun behaviors now that they are outside. The reason those penguins are picking up a bunch of leaves is because it is still in breeding season for Humboldt penguins. Their breeding season covers much of the year. They can breed pretty much at any time throughout the year. And they use a lot of different types of nest material. So they'll use leaves, kind of pick up anything they can find. In the wild, they will nest in burrows or in scrapes. So that's why you can see we have a big rock with a hole in the front, which somebody's poking their head out of right now. And they have, of course, another, I think they've got 4 holes in the back wall that also lead to indoor burrows. So being burrow nesters, they usually kind of scrape out a scrape in the bottom of the burrow, and then we'll use rocks or whatever else they can find, because they live in the wild in South America. That's right, penguins don't just live in Antarctica. Not all of them are cold weather penguins. These penguins are native to South America. So they live on the rocky shores of kind of Chile and Peru up the western coast of South America, where it's a little bit more temperate, a little bit warmer. But being a penguin still means they spend a lot of time in very cold ocean water. So they still have to be able to keep themselves warm. And the way they do that is with their very specialized feathers. Even though penguins don't look very feathery, they kind of look like maybe they're kind of like leathery or scaly, those are still actually feathers. They're just very small and very tight knit, very close together. So they form a sort of wetsuit. It's a little easier to see when they're wet, which some of them are since they've been in the pool. So you can see some of their feathers on some of their backs have gotten kind of messed up from being wet and in the water. But those feathers act like a wetsuit and allow most of the water to just run right off of their backs. If I took a completely dry penguin and sprinkled water on its back, the water would bead up and roll right down its back and right off of that penguin. Of course, if they spend long enough in the water, those feathers do start to get wet. So there's kind of 2 almost layers of feathers. They have those outer feathers, which are, very oiled to help keep them waterproof, like I was just talking about. And then as their feathers get down closer to their body, they get a lot thicker and kind of fuzzier. And so they provide extra insulation for them should their feathers start to get a little bit wet. Penguins also have stores of fat in their body, like blubber, that help keep them warm should they get all the way wet down to their bodies. It's another layer of protection for them in those cold ocean waters. Why do you think they have to spend all that time in cold ocean water? What do you think they eat? Fish. That's right, fish is a penguin's favorite food. It's what we feed our penguins here at Lincoln Children's Zoo. But of course, the only place you can find fish is in the water. So they have to swim around in the water and catch real, live, slippery fish, which is pretty hard to do. So it's a good thing that penguins are really good swimmers. Now yes, penguins are birds, which means they do have wings, but take a look at their wings. They're a lot different than most other birds. Their wings are more like flippers. So they don't have the long primary wing feathers that help them get lift and fly. Their wing feathers are actually very, very small, just like the feathers on the rest of their body. And their wing flippers are extremely muscular. Believe it or not, those flippers look really skinny. They're really strong. They are one of the things that help them swim really fast. Humboldt penguins can swim up to 17 miles an hour and they're really maneuverable. If you watched our video when we released these guys out onto their new pool, you probably saw them doing all sorts of fast turns in the water. That's because they can not only use their flippers to help push them through the water, but they use their webbed feet, as you see Hugo kind of waddling up here, showing off those nice webbed feet. They can use those kind of as rudders to help steer themselves through the water and of course to help push themselves along as well. So they are incredible swimmers, and of course once they catch up to a fish, they're going to catch it and eat it, and that's where that beak comes in. Penguin beaks are actually pretty darn sharp because they have to be able to catch and hold on to a slippery fish in the water as it's trying to get away. So that sharp beak helps them to grab onto a fish. But unlike other sharp beaks that maybe I've talked about before, if you've followed some of my other keeper videos, penguins don't typically use their beak to cut their food up into small pieces. Usually, they're gonna catch a fish that they can swallow whole. And they can swallow fish that are a little bit bigger than you expect. They can actually open their beak up really wide, not quite as wide as, you know, maybe some of our other birds. If you watched our tawny frogmouth video, not quite as wide as his beak. But they swallow their fish all in one bite, and so they have special adaptations in their mouths to help them do that. Along their tongue, they actually have things called papillae, which kind of angle backwards, so they look like they have a really rough tongue, kind of like the teeth of a comb. And so those kind of structures on their tongue actually help push the fish backwards so that they can swallow it more fast and more easily. Of course, we have 9 Humboldt penguins here at Lincoln Children's Zoo, and so we get a lot of the questions on how do we tell them apart. You might have seen that some of our penguins have colored bands around one of their wing flippers. Here at Lincoln Children's Zoo, our male penguins are banded on their right wing flipper, and our females are banded on their left wing flipper. They each have a different color. But even if one of those fell off, we could still tell them apart by their bellies. Each penguin has an individual spot pattern on their bellies. And so it takes a while to learn, but we can tell them apart just by their bellies, and sometimes just by their behavior, because of course each individual has their own personality, and it's a lot of fun to really get to watch these penguins and get to know them because they have such fun social dynamics. I don't want to take up too much of our time here today because we have a whole week left of fun penguin videos to share with you. So I hope you have enjoyed getting to learn a little bit about our Humboldt penguins. Be sure to check back later this week to see more about our penguins. And of course, don't forget to check below in the comments for today's activity. Thanks a bunch. See you next time.